A young daughter who needs attention from her parents. She's got a father who loves her but has problems with communicating with his own daughter. And she's got a mother who hates her father and, it seems, doesn't even care about her at all. Did I just describe Charlie Morningstar, Lucifer and Lilith from Has-Been Hotel? Well, not exactly. I was actually talking about Octavia, Stolas and Stella, the characters from Helluva Boss. Helluva Boss is a spin-off of Has-Been Hotel, and, to be honest, the show is better than Has-Been Hotel in many ways. It is a more coherent show without big pacing issues. The story actually takes its time to develop the characters. It can spend the whole episode dedicated to a character's personal trauma. And this is exactly what is missing in Has-Been Hotel. Has-Been Hotel Season 1 feels like a test. What I mean is that it feels like Amazon decided to release 8 episodes just to see whether the audience would enjoy it and whether there would be enough audience for the show to invest into it. As a result, way too much was stacked into a relatively short season. But this video is about Helluva Boss, and Helluva Boss doesn't have this problem. It is a more organically moving story. If we keep comparing the show, certain characters' arcs simply moved from Helluva Boss to Has-Been Hotel. I already mentioned Octavia and her family, which is almost identical to Charlie and her family. There is also Fitzroy and his exploitative abusive boss Mammon, which is almost identical to Angel, Dust and Valentino. Watching both shows made me believe that Vivienne Medrano, aka the creator of the shows, has some serious problems with her parents. If we think about it, almost every single character in this universe has at least one terrible parent. The only character who has relatively decent parents is Millie. Blitz's father practically sold his own son to Payman, and not even for a good price. Sorry if that sounded somewhat cynical. Blitz was nothing but a source of income for his father, who is shown to not even care much about his son. Blitz hated his father so much he even decided to pronounce his name differently, as Blitz with silent O at the end, instead of Blitzo. But a lot of folks still call Blitz Blitzo, which pisses him off a lot. Hard not to emphasize, to be honest. Octavia's parents constantly fight because Stella, Octavia's mother, hates Stolas. Their marriage was arranged by their parents. Stolas and Stella never even saw each other before their engagement. They were forcefully married to each other with just one single goal, to produce a noble blood heir to the Goisha family. Stella constantly abuses her husband and, as we see, she doesn't give a single damn about Octavia, who's suffering from loneliness and just wishes to have a normal family, normal household, instead of complete bedlam she has to live in every day. Stolas tries to keep this illusion of normality for his daughter by staying with Stella, but eventually he realizes he cannot take Stella's insolence and blatant aversion any longer. Stolas decides to divorce his wife, and in return she hires an assassin to murder her husband. Stella doesn't mention her daughter, not even once in her conversation with her brother, as if Octavia doesn't even exist, and, in a way, she really does not exist to her mother. Stella only views Octavia as a necessary chore and not as a living person with her own emotions and feelings and her natural need for love and attention. It is hard to feel any kind of empathy towards Stella. That's true. Stella was deliberately written in such a way that we only see her insolent and hateful side. But if we think about what she had to go through, she was forced to get married just like Stolas. Maybe she had someone she liked whom she had to cut off from her life because of her regal duties. No surprise that she hates her husband that much. But of course that hardly excuses her behavior and her complete neglect of Octavia's feelings. Stolas tries to be mindful, but it's hard for him. He tries to make Octavia's life at least bearable, but he doesn't even know what she likes to do and where she would like to go. He takes his daughter to an amusement park like she's still a kid, even though she doesn't wanna go. Their relationship is not particularly great, but they find common ground and Octavia even discovers a good caring father in Stolas. That's basically what happens between Charlie and Lucifer, which makes me think about Vivienne and her problem with her father. Stolas himself was neglected by his dad. First, Payman literally bought a friend for Stolas, so that Stolas wouldn't feel lonely instead of trying to become a friend to his son. Second, Payman arranged the unhappy marriage with Stella, which practically robbed Stolas of his youth, his best days. Luna didn't even have parents, and she spent most of her days in the orphanage, until Blitz, in his search for a hellhound, made a decision to adopt her. She and Blitz have a tense relationship, and no matter how much Blitz tries to be a good father, or just father, Luna constantly rejects Blitz's sincere attempts to get closer to his adopted daughter. Sometimes it can be really mean, like in the second episode of the second season, especially in contrast with Octavia and Stolas. No matter how much Blitz tries, Luna just doesn't see him as her father figure. She only sees him as an annoying boss with whom she lives and who pretends to be her parent. Obviously that hurts Blitz, even though he tries his best to keep his emotions inside. The only moment when Blitz lets his feelings out in front of Luna is at the end of the last episode of the first season, but only because he is drunk. There is a lot in common between Luna and Octavia, and no surprise that there is no better person in the whole world who could understand Octavia's struggle than Luna. The moment that they share is maybe the most emotionally strong moment in the whole show, at least to me. However, by far the most relatable character to me is Moxie. Of course he's got a horrible death too, but his situation is reversed Octavia and Charlie. If Octavia and Charlie have decent fathers and horrible mothers, then Moxie had a god-awful father and a good mother who wanted to shelter her son from her husband's madness. One of these days I had a conflict with my father, and I was in a pretty terrible mood. Then I watched the third episode of the second season, the one where Crimson, Moxie's dad, summoned his son back to his lair for, guess what, forced marriage of course. I saw how much Moxie struggled with his dad, and that made me feel better because I realized I am not the only one struggling with a bad parent, and that some people have even worse fathers. No matter what my own dad says or does, Crimson is just on another level of horrible. He is a criminal who used to teach his son how to shoot and drown people. And it was really good to see Moxie finding strength in him and resisting his father. Moxie chooses to become a person he wants and, most importantly, needs to be, instead of trying to please his crazy criminal parent. He chooses the woman that he loves, and this is what matters. I also noticed this pattern. Most male characters have problems with their dads. Moxie, Blitz, Stolas. In the meantime, female characters have problems with mothers, namely Octavia and Charlie. I don't think that's a coincidence. Stolas is a very relatable character not only because of his daddy issues, but also because he desperately wants to be with Blitz. He loves Blitz. We see that he often sends long texts to Blitz, inviting Blitz to come and visit him. Blitz also has feelings for Stolas, but he just doesn't believe that someone as noble as Stolas can have any sincere feelings, especially towards a mere unremarkable imp such as Blitz. Blitz doesn't believe in Stolas' candor, and therefore forces himself to be as insincere and cynical as possible when he's around Stolas. But we learn that Blitz's demeanor is just a mask that he puts on every day. Blitz suffers from an acute sense of loneliness and not belonging anywhere, but keeps putting on that mask of indifference. He's also got a sister named Barbie Wire who is a drug addict. She hates Blitz and wants nothing to do with her brother. She doesn't want to accept any help from him. One thing that has been Hotel did significantly better than Helluva Boss is music. I made the whole video ranking all songs from the show from worst to best in my opinion. Helluva Boss doesn't have this many great songs, but there are some good tunes nonetheless. Stolas You Will Be Okay that he sings to young Octavia is beautiful. However, my absolute favorite song from the show is Queen Bee's Cotton Candy from the finale of season 1. When I heard it, I immediately felt like I knew this voice. It sounded way too familiar, even though I could not quite put my finger on it. Then I found out Queen Bee is voiced by Kesha. I was honestly surprised to learn that Vivienne managed to bring Kesha on board. That was a nice surprise for sure. I had my problems with Helluva Boss, at times profanity feels excessive. but I love the show nevertheless. And the main reason is because the show is like good therapy. Lots of people have problems in life, and seeing all these characters in the show having very relatable problems is more soothing than I could ever imagine, honestly speaking. Creating relatable characters is very important. Watching the show was an amazing experience. Every time my dad or my mom do something that upsets me, I remind myself that the characters from Helluva Boss have it even worse. It gives me strength to keep going and hope that things are gonna get better, eventually. Someday, it simply cannot always be bad. And for this I'm grateful to Vivienne Mitran and everyone involved in the show. In both shows, in fact, both Helluva Boss and Has Been Hotel. And I'm looking forward to watching new episodes and having an opportunity to talk about them.